I was here 6 months ago, and I gave a talk. It was kind of the beginning of the year, it was January, and I gave a talk where I suggested that the next year you might think about what do you want to accomplish this next full year, and that you would be in a starting line of a race, not a race where you're competing with someone else, but with yourself, thinking about what do I want to bring into my life. So now we are 6 months later. It's the first week of January, so there's one thing that I want to say as we start today. July, yes, thank you. I'm thinking January. First week of July, so the thing that I want to say to you is Happy Half New Year. Did you know this was a thing? I think it is. I couldn't find a slide that said half New Year, so I had to make one myself. But I think it's important because when you think about in January, when we say we're going to resolve to do something, which for some people lasts maybe a couple of weeks, if we're lucky, there's something about it that makes sense, like, oh, I'm going to do this thing over the course of a whole year. I mean, a year is a big amount of time. So what if you now think about, well, it's the first week of July, we're ending the first week of July, and you have 6 months left in the more of 2024. So if you had those 6 months, go back and look at what was the thing you said, maybe I'd like to do this for the entire year. Well, now you've got an easier amount of time to deal with. Now it's not like a whole year. Now you have 6 months. So I'm going to ask you, do you have any half-year resolutions? Given that it was news to you that there is such a thing as a happy half new year, I'm guessing nobody's making half-year resolutions. But that's one of the things I want to talk about today is what can you do between where you are now and where you are at the end of the year. So I can tell you, as I began the year, there was one, Dr. James would teach us when we read the book, The One Thing, he'd say there's one thing such that by doing it makes everything else easier or irrelevant. And you do that one thing, and then everything else will fall into place. Well, you can imagine, for me, my one thing was that. That email address doesn't exist yet because I'm still fighting with Google to figure out how to make that happen. But that is something that 8 of us went through and accomplished and got to that place in life. Genevieve's taking in a deep breath like, yes, that was a significant thing. So that's one thing that was meaningful to me. But as I look at the second half of 2024, and this is really my encouragement to you today, and what I want to talk about is what's possible for you in the second half of the year. What are ways that you can add even more, that feels like more, but even more to 24. How can you do that? So that's what I'm going to talk about. I want to go back almost 1 month to after we finished that whole ministerial journey. I went to Hawaii with Erin and Sarah, my daughter. So these are a few pictures that I took of our trip to Hawaii. The one on the left is the place that I used to live when I lived there. In the background, that's me at the beach, out for a run. And then on the right I was there for my 45th, I had to do that math in my head, my 45th high school reunion was there, and we celebrated, and that was an amazing time. So I got to have all of these experiences, which in Hawaii is pretty incredible. I also would go out for a walk or a run every morning and see the most amazing sunrises right, minutes from where we were staying. This is in Queen Kapiolani Park, looking towards the east where the sun is rising. Just beautiful. The other thing that I got to do a lot was spend time in the water, and that was what I had said to everyone before we went. I said, there was so much going on in the spring with ministerial, with family issues going on that I processed, that I just wanted to sit on a beach and I just wanted to relax. That was the most important thing to me. You can probably get a sense that this is not where my vacation ended up going. And if so, you would be right, because one of the things that we did, and this is what I'm going to talk about today, is zip lining. This was something that our daughter was there, and I didn't know this ahead of time. I was pretty clear that I wanted to sit on a beach with a book. And she's like, well, you know what I really would love to do is go ziplining. And she had already found places, researched it. She's like, this is actually the greatest part of having a 24-year-old. If there's anything you want to know in the world, you just go, Sarah, what's the answer to this? And she's going to find it in 2 seconds flat on her phone. So she finds a place and says, you know, it's going to be a 1-hour drive up there because it's on the northeast shore of Oahu, and a 1-hour drive back. So I'm thinking my beautiful day sitting on a beach is now me sitting in a car, which that sounds kind of like home. It doesn't sound like Hawaii. So I wasn't terribly enthusiastic about it. But I said yes, and it was a real yes. And it was interesting because our daughter has been in this teaching enough that she gets when you say something if you don't really mean it. And she's like, don't say yes if you don't mean it. And I'm like, oh, okay, in the moment, that was my work. Because it would have been really easy to go, fine, I'll go. And she wouldn't have wanted that. Like, nobody wants that kind of energy. They want congruent energy of, yes, I really want to do this. And so I took a moment, and I thought about it, and I go, this is time I get to spend with our daughter, with my wife, and I'm going to be open to it being amazing. So the title of my talk today is Add More Zip. There we go. So this is not me. The other picture, just to be clear, was me. This is not me. This is Dr. Lori found this picture. This is just for reference. I'm going to share a little bit of ziplining knowledge with you here. This is called a Spider-Man. And I realize this is because in the original Spider-Man movie, I guess there's a scene where Spider-Man descends down, upside down, and kisses Mary Jane upside down. So that's what this pose is. I will tell you up front, I never did this one. But what I want to talk about today is ways that you can add more zip into your life, and especially in the next 6 months. So first, a little bit about how ziplining works, because in my estimation, when I did this, I'm like, oh, this is kind of like science of mind. There's something about this that really resonates with me. So in ziplining, at this course anyway, there are 8 lines. You go to the top of a mountain, you start on the top line, you go down, and you end up back at the bottom again. One of the lines was half a mile long. One of the lines, you go 50 miles an hour. Now, not having ever done this before, I had a little bit of trepidation about this. Probably any time you try something new, especially this kind of thing, you might feel a little bit of anxiety about that. But there's good things about this. So you can see the way that ziplining works basically is you've got this harness that supports you, and it's a fairly substantial harness. It's got a hook there, which you can see the guy on the right. You can see his hook. And what happens is you take your pulley, it attaches to that, they stick you on the wire, and then you're good to go. And just so that you're safe, that fence there, they won't let you pass that fence unless you have a safety harness on. That's the beige strap. So you put the safety harness on, you walk out there, you stand on the box while they hook you up, and then you're good to go. And they're incredible. They made it a lot of fun. Like very sort of, it almost felt like I was on Jungle Cruise, where the guys do all the jokes on Jungle Cruise at Disneyland. But we felt very safe. It didn't ever feel like they're not taking it seriously. So as I think about this and this idea of getting on a line where you're going to go from one place to another place, felt like a perfect metaphor for what the next 6 months could be. So when we think about more in 2024, and you think about what are the next 6 months, I have a question, which is, what would you do in those 6 months if you knew you couldn't fail? Because when you look at the zipline experience, once you do the first one, the very first one, and you go, okay, I see how this works now. I'm not afraid anymore. Now I know that this will work, and I know that when I jump off this platform, it will work. So I have a question. Even though I know I'm supported, why don't we do those things that we said we would do? Like if I look at the next 6 months and go, well, I could do this. The question is, why don't we do it? Well, Aaron and I saw a movie. I'm not going to spoil it. We saw a movie Thursday night. It was Inside Out 2. I don't know if you've seen the first one, but the second one is equally as brilliant. I highly recommend it. In a nutshell, in this movie, the protagonist is in the first movie, she's like 11, 12 years old. And the movie demonstrates all of the emotions inside her mind and shows how those emotions are driving her behavior. There's joy, there's sadness, there's anger, there is fear, and what's? Anxiety. Oh, wait a second. That's the first one. But in the second one, she is now 13 years old, about to enter high school. So there's a new cast of emotions that come in, and this is the one that steals the show, literally steals her mind in the second movie. Anxiety. Those are the original, the OG emotions from the first movie. So why I think, and I was saying this to Genevieve this morning, I don't think I've seen a more brilliant demonstration of how experiences become beliefs, become the guiding principle of what we do in our life, because that movie demonstrates it. She has all these experiences. In the mind, they take them and they put them in this pool of water, and in the pool of water, they become emotions, beliefs that guide what she thinks about herself. I can do this. I'm smart. I'm capable. Or she has disempowering beliefs based on what anxiety does. So anxiety, I think, when it comes to doing something new, is a really profound experience for us. This is the platform, one of the platforms at the zip line. So you can imagine being at the top there, you might have a little bit of anxiety about that experience. Getting all the way to the top there, you're hundreds of feet in the air, and you know that this zip line looks substantial enough. It's concrete. There's huge wires everywhere. Like that part of it, you go, this is the most amazing thing that's ever been built. I don't doubt that that will work. But there's still that part of you that wonders. So I want to do a small little experiment here. And Sherry, would you mind? I need a volunteer. And I see, is that, who's sitting over there? I can't see. Oh, Anne. I'd love for Anne to, Sherry, would you take the mic over to Anne, who is, by the way, let's give it up for Anne and the amazing team of volunteers, Wanda, who are preparing our breakfast this morning. So this is going to be really easy, Anne. I want to make sure the mic is on for Anne. So Anne, do you see off to your left there the light switch, the far one on the wall? Okay, so that light switch currently is off. And let me ask you, if you look at that light switch, you know how to turn a light switch on, right? Mm-hmm. Tell me affirmatively you do.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So will you go over and turn that light switch on, please?
All right. Is this a trick question?
It is not a trick question. It is the simplest.
I'll do it.
There. It was that simple. Thank you, Anne. Big hand for Anne. You're completely done now.
Oh, thank you for asking.
So the light switch, we all know how to turn on a light switch, don't we? There's no doubt in our mind. Anne stood up. She didn't have to go, wait, how do I get over to the light switch? I'm not sure what that process is like. She didn't have to guess which part of the light switch to turn on. She knew. She knew it would work because we have electricity flowing through the walls here, and you turn that light switch on, and it works. We have things like that in our life every day. All of you are going to get in a car after this and go home. You're going to know, hopefully, usually, that your car is going to work. Carol's laughing. It doesn't always happen, but usually we depend on it, right? It usually works. So that's the way we go through our life. We don't usually have to have things explained to us, except here's a diagram I found that in case you wanted to know scientifically how does ziplining work, this is it here. This shows you the angles and the inclination angle, the drop of the section. They actually misspelled length of section there. I can't believe that. But this shows you, in case you needed to know from a scientific standpoint, how does that work? We have that too in our teaching. We could explain it scientifically, but we have an even simpler term to explain how it works and what we bring to any process that we're in. Does anyone know? It's one word. Does anyone know what you depend on when you are trying something new for the first time? I heard it. Faith. Absolutely. You have faith. You have faith that it will work. You know that we are surrounded in this universe, that this harness that I'm wearing, that I'm going to put on the zip line, that is the universe. It's got me. I am supported by that. I don't need to see the zip line to know that it works. Actually, I did the first time. The first time we jumped off, I needed to see it. But from that point on, I knew how it worked. This word is so important. Do you know how many times this word appears in the science of mind? Guess. How many? 200. That would be a lot. Actually, it would be interesting to see what's the most used word. I should someday, when I have nothing to do, which would be never, pull up the concordance and go and see which 82 times. In fact, there's an entire chapter in the Science of Mind called Faith, where Ernest Holmes talks about faith. And he says in that chapter, faith is an affirmative mental approach to reality. Reality, capital R. He's not talking about relative. He's talking about reality. Whenever he uses that capital R, reality, he's talking about truth. So faith, affirmative, meaning positive, I expect it. I have the highest expectation of it working. It's a mental approach to reality. Same page, he talks about fear. He says fear is nothing more nor less than the negative use of faith. It's faith misplaced. So that is helpful when I think about the zipline experience. If I'm afraid there, it's just me not using faith. It's misplacing faith, not using it in a way that is helpful to me. So when I'm standing on that platform and I'm thinking about jumping off, that's me getting ready to go. And when I think about that, and I'm looking at that line, and I'm trying to convince myself that I have faith that this will work, I'm reminded that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, like that caption. Substance of things hoped for. The line I'm hoping is there. It is the substance of things, the evidence of things not seen, meaning that you may not see this amazing, awesome power in the universe, but because we see the demonstration of it, the effect of it, we know that it's there. So because the line was successfully navigated, when I went across the zip line, I know that it's there. So I'm going to now, twice now, you've been encouraged to stand up. So really quickly, I'm going to ask everyone to stand up. And I'm going to tell you why I'm asking you to stand up, and don't worry, you can sit down quickly. Imagine right now, on July 7th, that where you stand right now is a platform. You are standing on the July 7th platform, and you are now going to get on a zip line that will take you to the December 31 platform. So in those 6 months, you will accomplish something, you will do something, you will create something that's going to happen during those 6 months. So when you have a thing, it doesn't have to be the most amazing thing ever, but when you have that thing, please sit down. The July 7th platform to the December 31. Every single day you stand on a platform where you can jump off and do the thing that is in your heart to do, the thing that you want to do. And you have a zip line from where you are to where you want to be. So if I think about my next 6 months, I was talking about this with Mindy, I think before. No, I was with Robbie, talking about what would I do if I knew that I couldn't fail. And I thought, well, you know what I might do? I might write and apply for a second TEDx talk. Not get one, that might be something that would take longer, that's in somebody else's control. But what's in my control is I could write a new talk that I want to give. So now I want to ask you, having stood up on your platform, what about you? What's something that you thought about that you could do in the next 6 months. Maybe it's take a trip somewhere. Maybe you want to go see the fall colors. Maybe you want to go visit a relative. Maybe you want to go to Yosemite. What about starting a book? Maybe there's a book that you, in your heart, that you want to write that speaks to you. Maybe you want to go rock climbing. And if this is your one, I'm going to suggest this will be the easiest thing you ever have to do, because about 100 feet that way is a rock climbing wall. Did you guys know this? There's a rock climb, Boulder Dash is right there. You literally turn out the door here, go in there, and within 20 minutes, you could be rock climbing. That's how easy this can be if you allow it. Maybe what you want is to find a new place to live, or to spruce up your place, to declutter, to create more energy in your space. Or maybe you want to meet someone new, or yes, that resonates with you. Yes, I love that. So, as you think about all of those things, what can come up first? Remember that anxiety character with the crazy face? We can think of, oh, there's reasons not to. Of course. I can think of, if I thought of the second TEDx talk, I could go, what if it doesn't work? Like, what if you discover that you come up with something and you get turned down, and now the thing that you were so proud of before now is going to get tarnished because you think something's wrong or that people reject you. So there's all sorts of reasons that we can come up with not to. So I want to go back to the ziplining. When Sarah said that she wanted to go ziplining, there were things that I thought about, reasons not to go ziplining. Chief among them was, I was in the middle of a book, and I wanted to sit on the beach and read the book. This is a great book, by the way, Expiration Dates. This author, Rebecca Cyril, writes metaphysical-themed books that are kind of fun, but they always have like some interesting twist. So this is what I would have rather done. But I will say that because I listened to Sarah and I allowed myself to consider that, this is now the favorite thing that I've done this entire year. And I almost didn't do it. If it had just been Aaron and I, we would have probably been very comfortable doing what we've normally done. But this new person said, well, what if you tried this thing that is sort of outside of your comfort zone? And what was fascinating was on our last night of vacation, we were at dinner, and I asked Aaron and Sarah, I said, what was your guys, without prompting them about me, so what was your guys' favorite experience on this entire trip? Both of them said ziplining was their favorite experience of the entire trip. This is us in walking on one of the bridges that goes in between them. So in order to do this, though, in order to make this experience happen, you have to take that first step. The zipline experience starts with the very first platform, and you have to step up there. You have to take that step. So I want to go back to the song that we sang at the very beginning. Using the royal we, sorry. Walking on sunshine. Do you now see it's a ziplining person and there's sunshine at their feet? This is why I love this song, this idea that wherever you are walking, you are lifted and supported by the universe. Wherever you take a step, you are supported. As I said at the top, this is a song that is kind of ostensibly about a love relationship. But when you look at the lyrics, you can also read it as the relationship that person has with the dream, the thing that they want, the thing that animates them, the thing that excites them. At the very end, I just want you back and I want you to stay. That's what we all want. Whatever this dream that we have, this thing that we want it to stay. We want to walk on sunshine, and I love at the end, it's time to feel good. When you pursue that thing that you want, you're going to feel more good. So I go back to add more zip. I'm going to give you 3 ways that you can add more zip in the next 6 months. So you might ask, how would you do that? The first is try something new. Maybe it's something that's slightly outside of you. You can tell like ziplining was not something I'd ever done before. That was outside of my comfort level. Another one is, does this take a little convincing? If it does, that's probably a good thing because it means that someone's cajoling you to think about something beyond you. And if a release form is required, it's probably also, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. I actually didn't read I shouldn't tell you this. I didn't really read my release form. You probably did though, didn't you? Of course. An attorney will always read it. So that's the first one. Something new. Start from easy. Start with the easiest platform first. When you're riding a bike, you don't immediately get on like the most elaborate bike possible, do you? No, you get on a bike with training wheels. That's okay. Make it easy. Maybe if this is the thing for 6 months, you're going to do something, you're going to try it for a month. And then at last, enjoy the feeling. When I looked at that picture, it reminded me, and I think this is true, when you are with a parent, if you can remember back when you learned how to ride a bike, it was probably with a parent or someone in your family that you loved, what was the first thing you said when you were taken off on your own? That first time they gave you the nudge and you were doing it. You looked around him and you probably said, I did it. Look at me. Like you were so excited, that feeling. So this is what I'm hoping that you will think about. And then the third thing is to commit to the thing that you say that you want to do. There's, in ziplining, there's not if it doesn't work out, like they take you to the top of the mountain on an ATV and they don't ever say to you, well, if you get to the top and you just find it's not for you, we'll be happy to drive you all the way back down in the ATV, just you. It'd be like the drive of shame. They don't say that. If it doesn't work out, so you just know that you're going to do it. And again, we have a very technical term for this, and it's decide. Just decide you're going to do it. So if I go back to that idea of decision, Ralph Waldo Emerson says, once you make a decision, the universe conspires to make it happen. Once you decide to do that thing, that harness you're wearing, that perfect attaching to the zip line, all of it is going to work perfectly for you, and it will take you to where you want to go, that destination. And then the last way is have fun along the way. This is actually on the very last zip line, and I'll say that I wasn't quite comfortable enough yet doing all the trick things that the guys who were, with the tattoos and everything, like they clearly had done this a lot. But in the very last one, I stood on the platform and I turned around backwards so that when I went off the platform, I was doing it in a way where I couldn't see where I was going. That was as far as I was, that was my comfort zone. So this is a picture of me going down backwards. That guy, he was crazy. I couldn't imagine that. So once again, I'm going to remind you, right now, you are standing on a platform, July 7th. There's something you could do, something that is your brilliance to bring into the world. I'm going to suggest today that if you choose at the very end to avail yourself of working with one of our amazing practitioners, that you think about what is that thing that you want to do and allow them to know the truth for you, that it is already done, it is perfect, it is complete. So that is my suggestion for you today. Think about the next 6 months. Think about what you want to do. Know that the universe is that thing that supports you, that guides you, that you are on a zip line where you're going to go from right where you are now. You will end up there. And when you do, it will be an amazing experience. You will have had fun. You will lift yourself up because you will say, I did that. You will look back like that kid on the bike and say, look what I did. Namaste.